Hi, this is Hamada Zahawi, founder and CEO of Right Track Admissions, an admissions consulting company. Now, if you haven't been to our channel before, get ready for an unfiltered account of exactly how to get into your top choice program, how to secure funding, and how to succeed both as a student and as a professional. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to hit the big red button below to subscribe to our channel to get the latest content from Right Track Admissions, as well as hit us up on our social media handles conveniently located below this video. Now, what are we going to talk about today? Today we're going to talk about how the COVID crisis is going to impact the law school admissions process. A very, very important topic as you prepare through the law school application process. So make sure to wait till the end of the video to get the main takeaways that will help you figure out and navigate the situation, as well as your call to action to get you on the right track to success. Okay, so the first thing I want to mention is the class size and the applicant pool. Right? So the people who applied in 2019 and 2020, the ones who just applied to school, quite a few of them have asked for deferrals. Why? Because a lot of these students didn't want to take online classes, especially as 1Ls. So they've requested from the schools who've given them acceptances to defer to start in fall 2021 and not in fall 2020. That being said, those who are admitted and have successfully deferred their application and their seat have a seat waiting for them for fall 2021. So what does that mean for you? That means if you're applying this year, the class size or the seats available has become smaller. Why? Because they have had to guarantee those students who applied, accepted, and had their deferrals accepted, they have a seat waiting for them for next year. So you have to realize that one of the first things that COVID is going to impact is the class size in terms of how many seats are available for the people who are applying this fall, 2020. So that's the first thing I want you to kind of consider is how many seats are going to be available, which also plays a role into how many people are going to be applying. For a couple of years, the application increased. Why? Because people want to weather the economic crisis in law school. So when they graduated, let's say in 2011, 2012, there was a place available for them in the job market. So they upskilled. They increased their skill sets to be able to have a professional track. And so quite a few people are considering going to school now to weather the economic crisis that's impeding, that's most likely going to happen because of the COVID crisis. The second part, and the second major point that I really want to mention, is how COVID may be impacting you. Now, we know for law school, one of the most important, if not the most important factor, is your application. If the LSAT is one factor and your GPA, the application, I would say, especially now, is even more important in terms of your personal statement, your diversity statement, your addendum, your resume, and so forth. So you really, really want to be thinking about how has COVID impacted you and how will that translate into your application, right? And the key term here, the term I want you to be thinking about is authenticity and being unique and being true to yourself. You don't want to be talking in your personal statement about someone else's story as it pertains to COVID. If COVID has in fact impacted you in a meaningful way, in a way that really has gone into who you are, your family, impacted other people, then it's important to kind of translate that over. It may not necessarily end up in your personal statement, but it will end up in some aspect in your application. But you want to be authentic to it. You don't want to kind of talk about it in somebody else's words and then bring it into your application just to win brownie points, or just to win favor, or to kind of create that semblance that you deserve to go because you've suffered through COVID. It has to be authentic to you. Now, there's a couple of places you could talk about the COVID crisis and how it's impacted you. Obviously, as I said, being authentic. But if there isn't something that really touched on something that impacts how and which way you want to go to law school, then maybe it's not something you want to include in your personal statement. But it may be something you want to include in the diversity statement. Say, hypothetically, you volunteered during the COVID crisis. You can talk about that in your diversity statement. If you didn't volunteer, it's not something that impacts your diversity, it's not something that impacts your personal statement and your desire to go to law school, maybe it's impacted your ability to take on activities. Maybe it's impacted your ability to perform well on the LSAT. Maybe it's impacted the ability to perform well in terms of school, right? Maybe it's a medical crisis that's impacted you or someone else. If you don't want to put it into your diversity personal statement, you can put it in your addendum. The addendum is mission critical to your whole application to be able to provide explanations, clarity, light for the admissions committee, where you may not necessarily want to put that in your other really important application materials. You put it in your addendum. For me, that was mission critical to explain a poor LSAT score. So remember, explain, no excuses. Explain how COVID may have impacted you. Put that in the addendum. Or if you volunteered, for example, put that in diversity statement. Or if it's impacted you in terms of why you want to go to law school, then put it in your personal statement. But make sure to address it authentically in your application. Okay, the third fundamental point I want you to think about is the LSAT. Back in the day when we were taking the LSAT, it was on paper, we had a little timer for us, right? We're sitting in an examining environment, possibly at a school or possibly at a convention center or whatever it is where you were taking the LSAT, right? That's no longer the case. And thankfully, in the last couple of years, they've come up with the digital LSAT, and now they have the LSAT Flex. So the digital LSAT has allowed the LSAT Flex to come into fruition because now you can take the LSAT from the comforts of your home. The good news about that is it's from the comforts of your home, so you're comfortable at home. You know the environment. It's not a foreign environment. And you can recreate that environment at any given time when you're testing for going through diagnostics exams, right? The cons is possibly, though we don't know this for sure, is that everybody may do better. So the performance will get better, which means that the final LSAT score, not the raw, but the final LSAT score, may be lower even though you have a higher raw score, right? But in the end of the day, it's a great, great thing that has happened, and it's very fortuitous because it allows you to take it from home, proctored from home, camera in there, and so forth. So what you want to be thinking about is when are the test dates for that, and make sure that you're on point and that you have that written up there. Make sure that you're doing the exam and taking several of those diagnostics exams in your home environment, a very quiet space and so forth. And you also want to be thinking about taking those exams consistently in a digital format as a way, as I said, in a recreated environment for that exam situation itself. So that's what you want to be thinking about in terms of the LSAT and the LSAT Flex, because COVID has impacted it, and now you can take the LSAT from the comforts of your home. And hopefully that will help you do better on the exam. Okay, and here's a quick bonus one. I cannot reiterate this enough. Apply early, apply early, apply early. Why? Because it allows you to pivot and to make sure that if there's any incoming challenges because of this crisis, you're ready to kind of adapt and deal with it. Not leave it to the last minute. Maybe there's an LSAT Flex issue that comes up. Maybe your recommenders don't give the recommendation in time because the schools are closed. Maybe you can't finish up your semester grades. Who knows? So get busy with your applications. You want to get them done as early as possible. What is early? Around November is really the kind of cutoff. If you're going past Thanksgiving, into late November, early December, you're getting into the really sketchy time in terms of supplying and submitting, your application. So make sure you apply early. That's your bonus point, okay? And here are the main takeaways, again, just for your own iteration. Number one, think about the class size. And the class and the applicant pool. Number two, thinking about your total application and how you're going to incorporate COVID within it in the different application materials. Number three is think about the LSAT Flex and make sure that you're well ahead of it and that you're applying early. Okay, those are your four main takeaways that I want you to be thinking about and how COVID will impact the law school admissions process. And here's your call to action. Make sure to create a calendar and a schedule and stick to it, telling you exactly when you're going to request the recommendations, when you're going to start producing the application in terms of when you want to have a cutoff date for your different parts of your personal statement, your essays, your diversity statement, whatever it is. Make sure that you have all of that scheduled out, and definitely make sure when you're going to schedule out the LSAT Flex so you don't miss any deadlines, right? And make sure that you work backwards. Put a hard stop at mid-November and work backwards towards that timeline. Okay, but make sure that you have a schedule that really, really bodes well with getting the applications out by mid-November. Well, I hope you found this useful, and I'll help get you on the right track to success. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. We'll do our best to keep providing you with free guidance. As always, subscribe to our channel by hitting the big red button below. And please, in the meantime, stay safe, stay sane, and stay connected.